Ragin' Cajuns still streaking. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. All right, hopefully everybody had a great weekend. We will go over a little spring football. Saw a few teams had games. More and more teams are just having additional practices. We will get back to the spring football tour. I have ULM scheduled. We got to reach back out to Coastal Carolina and Georgia State, among others. Also, Clay Helton at Georgia Southern. But hopefully we'll get them all. Hopefully, the idea is to get everybody on before they skedaddle and take some time off. All right, I know that we're back to the Cajuns. It is what it is. Baseball-wise, they took down Marshall, and the pitching was spectacular. In fact, it was spectacular for both teams. The Cajuns won scoring 6 runs. They swept the series scoring 6 runs, right? 3-1, 1-0, and 2-0. All right, so yeah. So that tells you Marshall came in and pitched very well as well. The last couple of days was outstanding. Chase Morgan and JT Etheridge combined for a 1-hit shutout, and Carson Fluno, and we had Matt Holtzhammer and Jack Martinez also combining for a 1-hit shutout. Fluno loses his shutout, or loses his no-hitter on a ball hit back up the middle. And the second baseman for the Cajuns, John Taylor, was there, and the ball hits the bag and pops right over his head. Not saying he would have gotten it, but he was standing right there. So that's a bad break for Fluno. Interestingly enough, with over 110 pitches, he was going to give it to him. So he's probably going to be, what did he finish with? He finished with 109 pitches. So he's going to be close to somewhere to 130 pitches. This is a guy coming off of shoulder issues a couple of weeks ago. But the Cajuns pitching has been great because the Cajuns hitting has gone in the other direction. And it sort of started when you didn't think it would. It sort of started against Prairie View. I think they beat them 11-4, but they kind of slept walk through the game. They scored 4 late in the 8th, could have run rolled them, but didn't. And then they had 10 base hits against La Tech, but they left 11 men on base. And that's when the actual winning streak ended. They're still on a streak. Sunbelt, they started out 0-1 in the Sunbelt, losing to Arkansas State, and they've now won 14 straight, which ties not South Alabama for the record. It ties South Florida's record of 14 straight conference victories set back in 1986. So, oh goodness, that's a minute ago. And obviously they have a huge series coming up against Coastal Carolina. It is by far their biggest game of the year. I'd say period, but certainly when you're playing Vanderbilt and LSU and Houston, those are pretty big ball games. And even maybe Houston and Houston. But it is a tone setter for the weekend because pitching wise, as great as Chase and Carson pitched, it is really tough to beat Andrew Herman and LP Langevin. The guy throwing 85 to 87, and then the next guy throwing gas. So it really tough to beat that combo. The bats need to get going. As I mentioned, the Cajun bats have been really quiet. We mentioned for 2 weeks, everybody was hitting. Some guys got rest on Sunday, but John Taylor's got to get going again. Josh Alexander's got to get it going again. Jose Torres has got to get it going again. Amade's got to get it going again. So these guys need to get it going again. And we'll see, because I can't imagine, the Cajuns are going to, limit Coastal to one run in 3 ball games. And that was a solo home run. It wasn't even like a big rally. If you're into this kind of thing, Carson Fluno, I said 109 pitches, didn't make too many stressful pitches. They had one man to third base, and that was after a walk and then a stolen base and an error to get him to third. And the next batter flew out. Marshall didn't get anybody to second base until I think hold on here. I think the 9th. Did they get anybody on? Was it the 8th? Was there 2 on in the 8th? There was 2 on in, let's see here, a singled, reach on the fielder's choice. So he's out at second, hit by pitch. So he had runners on at first and second. And then I think the 9th inning, you had one guy on. So I'm there, again, with all due respect to Marshall, got to ask, how much of it was really good pitching, and Marshall's lineup is not. It struggles. All right, the 2 guys at the top of the lineup can hit, and that's about it. And I think even on Friday, they had like 3 of their 5 base hits on Friday. And the team had a total of 2 base hits the rest of the way. Now, they do have a couple of games against Southeastern, so we'll see how that goes. But the Cajuns are 14-1 in conference. They are 28-9 overall. Like, they've won 19 out of their last 20 ball games. It is ridiculous, and yet, this is the pessimist in me. They have issues in terms of getting in with an at-large berth. Now, if they win the Sun Belt, they'll probably get in. I don't want to risk that, all right? Because they're sitting at the top of the Sun Belt with like a 42 and 43 RPI. I don't know if that's safe or not. And this even changed, as we've talked about Warren Nolan all season. This changed, Sunday evening from 45-11 with a 29 RPI, which the 29 RPI is fine and get you in, but they're not going to lose 2 more games the rest of the way, right? I mean, they're going to lose more than that. That would be incredible if they finish the season on a 36-3 run. So I'm not sure that's feasible. But okay, I didn't have that before. That was an ad on on Warren Nolan. I'm not sure we've had that before. So I just can't imagine that's going to happen. But let's see what it was. So they were at 45-11, and then we checked it again, and it went to 40-16, and then 40-16, they got an RPI in the 50s. Well, unless they win, they're not going to get in, I don't think. So let's see where they are now. Predicted results. They're at 42-14, so 36. So that is kind of bubble-ish. Kind of just have to win 1 ball game in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. Make sure you're not bounced out immediately, and you should be okay. But I am concerned about that. They do finish up 3 of their final 5 series are on the road, including Troy, Coastal's coming up, and Georgia Southern. Now, if you keep on winning, even if you only take 2 out of 3, and you still end up with 16 losses or something like that, well, that really wouldn't be 16 losses, like 5 more losses. So you end up with, that's 14 losses. Your RPI should be good. In fact, their RPI, which went down this week because of who they played, they could go to Coastal Carolina and hopefully not get swept from a Cajuns point of view. But if they lose 2 out of 3, and that's why that Friday night game is so important, because the Cajuns got a pretty good starting pitching rotation on the weekends, among the nation's best, by the way. Their RPI will go up because Coastal has like a 22 RPI, and wins on the road, especially like that, are much more important than the wins at home. So, since over a week ago, the Cajuns were sitting at like 45 or 46. They're down to 55 as of this recording. So we shall see what happens, but they are way out in front. There is a log jam atop the Sun Belt and for second place. And so let's talk about that when we come back right after I tell you about LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. And 2.5 million small businesses are using LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I almost did the Locked On College thing. Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's check out that log jam for second place in the Sunbelt. You do have a log jam there because, let's see here. Coastal took 2 out of 3 from Georgia Southern. Georgia State took 2 out of 3 from Southern Miss. And Troy is also up there at 9-6. So Coastal is 9-6. Troy is 9-6. Southern Miss is 9-6. Georgia Southern is 9-6. And Georgia State is 9-6. Georgia State's had a crazy season so far, right? Especially in the Sun Belt. They started out sweeping South Alabama. Then in there, they got swept by Georgia Southern. And then they take 2 out of 3 run ruling Southern Miss twice, 18-8 and 19-8. They even lost the last game 14-9. Someone's ERA is taking a beating, and now both teams' ERAs are taking a beating, although the averages and OPSs are going up. So Georgia State, apparently, here's what I don't understand. It's a little bit of a bandbox, but isn't it the same bandbox for both teams? It's not like Southern Miss is being shipped back to Hattiesburg and, has to hit there, right? It's not like an AI type of deal or a simulator. So I don't understand that. It's the same for both teams. Well, Georgia State's built for that. Okay. Well, isn't Southern Miss built for that? To hit home runs? So I don't quite get that thing. They say the same thing about Tennessee. But the teams are playing in the same ballpark. It's just it's a short center field for Tennessee as it's a short center field for you guys. So whatever the case is. Nonetheless, Georgia State does take 2 out of 3 from Southern Miss. Coastal took 2 out of 3 from Georgia Southern, and they may have, let me see, run ruled them kind of like, thanks for winning that middle ball game, but see, this is what happens when you mess with us. Let's see what happened on Sunday. Week away. Let's get back to what it is here. On Sunday, Coastal 16-4 over Georgia Southern. No, they announced their presence with authority there. Old Dominion, by the way, did they take 2 out of 3 from JMU? They did. Old Dominion takes 2 out of 3 from JMU, so that helps their RPI. And I don't think it's that far behind the Cajuns, to be honest with you. Let me see. So Old Dominion had a good weekend. Let me see if it's in here now. Old Dominion up to 58, right behind the Cajuns, as it turns out. Right behind the Cajuns. All right, let's check out the rest of the standings or rest of the series. Let me see here. The best way to do that is our buddy at Sunbelt Syndicate. All right, so Troy took 2 out of 3 from App, beat them 13-5 on Sunday. As we mentioned, ODU takes JMU down 2-1, 6-3 on a Sunday. Cajuns blank Marshall 2-0 behind Fluno, Holzhammer, and Martinez. They're the only Sunbelt team that swept them. That's how you have a 14-game winning streak in the conference. South Alabama bounces back from a loss to Arkansas State with a 3-1 win. So South Alabama takes 2 out of 3. Maybe they're starting to turn things around. We mentioned Coastal drub Georgia Southern 16-4. The Chants take 2 out of 3 from the Eagles. Southern Miss 14-9 over Georgia State. Panthers take 2 out of 3. And ULM actually wins a series against Texas State, but Texas State beat ULM on Sunday 13-11. So other than, what do we say, the standings, the Cajuns are up top, and we had that 5-way place for second place, 5-way tie for second place. Coastal Carolina, Troy Southern Miss, Georgia Southern, and Georgia State. Now, everybody else has a losing record in conference. James Madison, 7-8. Old Dominion, 7-8. App State, South Alabama, Texas State, all 6-9. ULM, Marshall are 5-10, and Arkansas State, who got off to that great start to begin the season, 4-11 in the Sun Belt. So again, big series for the Cajuns and Chanticleers. Let's see what else we'll have this weekend as a potential big matchups. Let's see here if we got any Power 5 schools. Old Dominion hosting Virginia. That's cool. Coastal Carolina going to Carolina. That's cool. Arkansas State hosting Ole Miss. Very nice. All right. And Friday, let's see here. Marshall hosting Old Dominion. Georgia Southern at James Madison. That's a big series. Both for James Madison. They still have a pretty good RPI, right? I believe. Let's see. It's still 26. They're 21-14 overall, 7-8 in the Sun Belt, and their RPI is 26. So that's big. A big opportunity for James Madison at home against Georgia Southern, and yet Georgia Southern a good chance on the road against James Madison. App State off to Arkansas State. Southern Miss has a chance to right things against ULM. Troy hosting Georgia State, and South Alabama at Texas State. So really the answer is no, other than the Cajuns and Coastal Carolina and maybe Georgia Southern at James Madison. I guess Old Dominion at Marshall. Marshall's a very different team at home than they are on the road. I think they are 1-13 and even worse on the road, not away from home at neutral sites. So they struggle. And so the two big series, probably the Cajuns at Coastal Carolina and Georgia Southern at James Madison. Otherwise, like the home teams, well, you got App at Arkansas State. All right, Southern Miss should win. That Troy-Georgia State series is interesting. Both teams are 9-6, and I have no idea what to make out of Texas State. They have to be one of the bigger disappointments in the Sun Belt this year. They have to be one of the biggest disappointments. I mean, what do we say they are? What's their record? Let's see here. Baseball standings, like 5-10. They're 6-9. I mean, at one point in time, what'd they lose here? Because, I mean, they lost to the Cajuns 3 in a row. They dropped 2 of 3 to Marshall, and they dropped 2 of 3 to ULM. Yeesh. They did take 2 out of 3 from James Madison, so they started out okay, but they have lost, what is that? 3, 5, 7. They're 2-7 in their last 9 Sun Belt games. That's heading in the wrong direction. So not great with that. All right, let's take a timeout. Let's see who had some spring game action. I tried to go over it. Some was easier to find than others, but we will do that next, and who still has spring games to go. We will still, we've hit 3 coaches so far. ODU came on, right? Ricky Ronnie. We had, now I'm going to have to remember this. Will Hall from Southern Miss. And, oh God, now I have to go through the teams in my head. I wrote this down. Let's see here. We just did this. And GJ Kinney. Okay. So we had those 3 guys on. And so that leaves us 11 over the next couple of weeks. Again, we have Coach Vincent on the books. That's probably not for a couple weeks, though, but we'll see who else is available coming up. All right. So we will do spring football next, right after I tell you about FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL, and baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. How about by the way, the Pelicans? That's for the Schultz cast. Tune in Monday morning, 6:55, same bat channel, if you will, for the Pelicans. That's just not good. Anyway, spring football recap. So let's see who had it. Teams not having spring games was App State, but I think they finished a while ago. ODU, it was another practice. Texas State had their spring ball game. I think that got going a little bit better offensively the more they played. I do think Arkansas State had their spring ball game, and Georgia State definitely had their spring game. We're looking, talk about a guy who's trying to catch his breath is Del McGee. Really looking forward to talking to him, because somewhere along the way we got to ask him who was recruiting who, because he already was very familiar, not only being in Georgia, at Georgia, being familiar with Georgia State, but his son was being recruited, and is attending Georgia State. So that all stuff happened fast, where Sean Elliott took the tight ends job at South Carolina, and about a week later, Del McGee had the gig, and they, had to push practice back. Although I think they missed, they didn't get 2 more practices under him. But okay, but you get past that, and looking forward to talking to him. And it feels like Georgia State could be the sleeping giant. It just kind of feels like that could be the deal, because you have so much talent in that state, and Georgia can only get so much of it. And I'm sure Florida goes in there, and Alabama goes in there, and LSU goes in there, and South Carolina goes in there, and Clemson goes in there. And even, Georgia Southern's there, Georgia State's there. You got, Auburn is right there. There's plenty of schools that go into Georgia. But boy, if you can keep a handful of kids from Atlanta in Atlanta, Georgia State is that sort of sleeping giant. They do get these second-hand stadiums, right? They redid the Braves ballpark, which was the Olympic ballpark, and they're doing that. And that's kind of tough, right? The Cajuns are building a new stadium, and they're going down from 40,000 to like 32,000, right? You want a little bit more of an intimate setting. Maybe just put people on one side of the stands. I don't know. You got to figure out how to do that. But nonetheless, it feels like that's a sleeping giant with the right guy there. And, they've had success. They just haven't had that, Coastal Carolina type of season, that Cincinnati type of season, that UCF type of season, right? And obviously the Sun Belt is tough to compete in. So we shall see what happens there. But really do appreciate Ricky Ronnie, Will Hall. Will Hall, actually, Southern Miss, they had like 2 practices after spring ball. So that's interesting. And GJ Kinney coming on and talking to us about their teams. You can check out the YouTube channel. Those are posted if you want to check those out. Those were really good interviews, and I appreciate all of their time. And usually, a lot of times, you get that kind of honesty deal. I'll ask all the coaches that about trying to get some. I don't bring up work-life balance, but time with the family. And he's like, hold it. No one wants to hear us complain about that. Ricky Ronnie. And it's true, right? These guys make a lot of money. A lot of people struggle with work-life balance and don't make nearly as much money and don't have access to the help that these football coaches have. So, no one really wants to hear about that. I do think it is a thing, but nobody wants to hear about it. And he was really funny about his wife basically inducing one of their children on the day off while they're prepping for a bowl game with Vanderbilt, which how often does that happen? Not the childbirth, the bowl game for Vanderbilt. Anyway, okay, so we will get back to football. Should mention Cajun softball. Texas State did take the final game on Sunday, but Cajun softball, I think they're up to 86 straight Sun Belt series, and it just seems like the Sun Belt once again is going to go through Lafayette. They struggle with those Power 5 teams, but they go into Mobile and take down South Alabama in a sweep. They go into San Marcos and take the first 2 ball games and shut out Texas State not once but twice. Texas State got them on Sunday, and that's fine. So congratulations to Bobcats for salvaging a win after not having scored a run. You do get a win on Sunday, so you go into the week feeling good about yourself. But the Cajuns are tough. So we'll see if that series, one would think that the series streak will continue for a little bit now. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in to another edition of a Lockdown Sunbelt. We'll get back to the football. We'll also do some basketball because the transfer portal is hot and heavy. All right. Some guys are leaving. Some guys are coming. We will get into that as well. So still lots to do in the Sunbelt as we are in the middle of April and heading towards, the end of the calendar year with the college softball and then college baseball. All right. Again, thanks for tuning in to Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll talk to you again on Tuesday.